autoimmunity is a three-legged stool. You have to have the genetic susceptibility, you have to have leaky gut, and then there has to be a trigger,
Oh,
whether it's a viral trigger, like from a virus like Epstein-Barr virus or COVID, or it could be an emotional trigger. So just
yeah.
because you have the genetic susceptibility does not mean that your autoimmune condition is turned on for life. And even if it is turned on, you can turn it back off.
You're listening to the What the Gut podcast, where busy moms can come for a holistic approach to health and vitality. I'm Allison, your host, a holistic health and wellness coach. In this space, we'll dive into the intricacies of achieving holistic wellness while balancing the demands of daily life as a busy mom. What the Gut is your haven for navigating the challenges that come with juggling numerous tasks while aiming for a healthier, more balanced life. Join me as we uncover practical solutions to common health hurdles, from managing fatigue to understanding all things gut health. Through insightful discussions, actionable insights, and tailored lifestyle strategies, my goal here is to empower you to embrace a vibrant, nourishing life while saying goodbye to being overwhelmed and exhausted. So if you're ready to embark on this transformative journey towards holistic well-being, hit that subscribe button. Get ready to discover the secrets to thriving in motherhood while nurturing your overall wellness. A quick reminder, everything discussed here is for educational and empowering purposes only and is not intended for personalized medical advice. Consult your personal healthcare provider for personalized medical advice. Welcome to What the Gut, where we create our own path to holistic health, one episode at a time. Hello, and welcome back to What the Gut. Today, I'm sitting down with Katherine Kiviat. She helps women reclaim their energy, improve their digestion, and restore balance through lifestyle shifts, functional testing, and nutrition. But her journey into this work is deeply personal. From navigating her own autoimmune struggles through transforming her son's health through holistic care, Katherine has seen firsthand the power of listening to your body and addressing imbalances at the root. In this episode, we will dive into what exactly inspired her to shift from a high paced career in photojournalism to functional nutrition, and one of the most powerful healing journeys that she's witnessed in her clients, along with why true healing is not just about food, but it's about the nervous system, lifestyle, and reconnecting with yourself. If you've ever felt stuck in the cycle of chronic illness, unsure of where to turn next, then this episode is for you. Let's get into it. Hi. Hey, Katherine. Welcome to What the Gut. I'm happy to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, you're a clinical nutritionist. You take this functional medicine and integrative approach to support your clients with interventions that really focus on finding the root cause of like digestive, endocrine, mental health conditions, things like
Yes.
anxiety, hormone imbalances, IBS, autoimmunity, all the amazing things. I love it. And you did have a career change that led you to what you do now. So
Yes.
what is
I did.
it that led you to have this career change?
So my story is similar to many other practitioners in that it did involve my own struggle with health and wellness. But I would say what really catapulted my career change was my son's struggle with health. I can dive into that story. I think that would be helpful for listeners, especially moms listening in.
Yeah.
So if I start with the beginning, he was actually born in Italy in a small
Okay.
town called Photojournalism.
Fancy. Fancy.
Not a fancy town, but a very small town. And I had him at 36 and a half weeks, which was a planned C-section, not what I had in mind. I wanted a very natural birth, but it was a planned C-section only because I had placenta previa.
Okay.
And it may have turned out differently had I been in the United States. I probably could have carried him to maybe 40 weeks, but they were very insistent on having him come out at 36 and a half weeks latest. So when he was born, he had a pneumothorax, which is a collapsed lung. So we were in a small town. They needed to take him to another hospital. And just to set the scene a little bit, it's a little bit different in Italy. They don't have the dads in the room while you're delivering C-section. So they whisked my son out to show my husband right after he was born and brought him back into me, wrapped up like a little burrito and said, just give him a kiss on his forehead because they were going to take him away. And I didn't really
Sure.
understand what was happening at the time, but he was whisked away and taken to Siena, to a larger hospital.
So
And
how far away was that?
it was about an hour's drive, far enough,
It
So
wasn't in the other room.
it was not in the other room. There was
Uh,
no skin to skin contact like what we had planned. I had wanted a water birth, quite
yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
But things change, things happen.
Yeah.
So he was taken away and I didn't see him for 5 days. But because I had wanted such a natural birth, I was in a hospital that was more holistically oriented, let's say. And so there were lactation consultants everywhere that came in and make sure that I had enough milk and colostrum in the beginning. And I was so lucky because my father and my husband actually were able to transport my colostrum and then my breast milk to him every day from the very beginning.
What a blessing. Oh my
Yes.
God.
It
That's
was
amazing.
amazing. So he never had any formula. He did have breast milk the whole time. Fast forward, we were able to take him home probably after 2 weeks. And, he had a very healthy infancy up until when we moved to Brooklyn, New York, when he was about 6 months old. And he had had a little bit of digestive upset, which was just taken care of with some probiotics and herbs, nothing major, otherwise very healthy. At 10 and a half months, he contracted bronchiolitis, which is like baby bronchitis.
Yes.
And at the time he was sleeping at the foot of our bed in Brooklyn, little did we know there was mold growing in the ceiling above, but no sign.
Well, usually if there's signs of mold, it's like past the point of really needing help too, right?
Exactly.
Like if you know that there's mold present. Yeah.
So
Gosh.
no signs, not that we couldn't see anything in the ceiling until months later. So he contracted bronchiolitis. He developed asthma. He went on to have an asthma attack every time he got a cold from the playground. So that was like, I want to say every 2 to 3 weeks at the time, he would have another asthma attack. And we didn't know this mold was there until
Yeah.
about 2 months later when the ceiling started bubbling. So he was given prednisone time after time. And they said, you really have to put him on inhaled steroids. So that's what we did. And that kind of calmed the asthma attacks. He still needed the albuterol with a nebulizer every time he would be sick to calm the asthma attacks. And at the same time, I was getting curious and I was doing some research online. I decided to take a class at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition and was asking around like at the pediatrician, do you think I should take him off of dairy? Because I had just started giving him whole milk when he was about a year old. That's
Yeah.
what I was told to do.
Yeah.
I breastfed him for the first year, and then I was giving him whole milk, organic, grass-fed whole milk. She said, no, there's no studies proving that has any relationship to asthma, any effect on the asthma. So, okay, fine. I was still giving him probably mac and cheese at that time, all the horrible things I should not be giving him. But
Well,
I didn't
sometimes
know.
it's survival mode too. So
Exactly. I think I was pretty stressed out and not into cooking everything myself at the time.
yeah, it's hard.
So, okay, fast forward, we ended up moving back to Asia, to Bangkok, Thailand.
Okay, so let me ask you really quick. What was it that you were doing to where you were traveling and living in these different places at this time?
Yes, so I was working as a photojournalist. My husband was a TV correspondent. We were kind of living this extreme life of adventure, let's say,
Nice. Okay.
um,
Yeah,
and picking up a few parasites along the way.
I'm sure.
Is that right? So who knows what my gut health was like when I got pregnant with him?
Right. Mm.
So when we arrived in Bangkok, he was still suffering with asthma. And my husband was then traveling probably 2 out of every 4 weeks. And I would find myself in the middle of the night, like 2, 3 in the morning, with my son in my arms, walking through the streets of Bangkok, trying to get a taxi to take him to the emergency room.
Oh, wow.
It had
What
gotten
sad. Like just
out of hand.
picturing you doing that. Oh my gosh.
Yes,
It's so-
heart-wrenching.
yeah.
And so about 6 months after we moved there, I met a naturopath from Australia who was first visiting, and then she ended up moving there, fortunately for us. And the first time I took my son in to see her, she took one look at him and she said, no dairy, no gluten. After I'd been asking the pediatrician this for the last year, right?
Yeah.
And I had even taken him to a more open-minded, let's say, pediatrician about a month earlier, and he had tried to take him off of the inhaled steroids.
Was
And he had-
this in Bangkok?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. He had tried to take him off of the inhaled steroids unsuccessfully, and we wound up in the emergency room again.
Yeah.
But the next month I met Penny, that was her name. She was a naturopath. She said no dairy, no gluten. She ran some functional tests, like a comprehensive stool test.
Mhm.
She did a mineral analysis with his hair, where she found elevated copper, low zinc, histamine intolerance, and there was, of course, leaky gut going.
Yeah.
So after putting him on a very strict gluten and dairy-free diet, even a month into it, and addressing his gut issues and nutrient deficiencies, imbalances, I was able to take him off the inhale steroids, and he never had another asthma attack again. And now he's 14.
Well, that's the episode right there. There it goes. Call it. Right. Oh my gosh. Because it takes about 3 weeks for the milk proteins from dairy to get out of your system.
Exactly.
So I would imagine you'd see that change pretty quick, but that is insane.
I know. And I used the example of the other doctor trying to take him off of it a month prior, only to say that it wasn't the timing. It wasn't that he had just grown older and grown out of it.
And cutting a medication cold turkey sometimes is not always the best option because it is it's a Band-Aid and it is keeping those symptoms suppressed.
Yes.
And so you need to heal what's really causing the symptoms.
Exactly.
Wow.
So
That is
that
amazing.
was, unbelievable to me. Of course, I was telling all my friends, and I was so inspired that I decided to go back to school to study functional nutrition.
Look, everybody I talk to, it's like because you're a mama with your kids, that's what gets you into this field. It's
Exactly.
amazing. It's
Yeah, I didn't
amazing.
even know about my own autoimmune condition until I had
Yeah.
started graduate school.
Yeah. So tell me about that because I know that you had Hashimoto's or found out you had Hashimoto's. What was that like for you?
Okay, so because I had been gallivanting all over the world with my husband in these exciting but dangerous countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, as I said, we were picking up parasites often. It was not a great
Yeah.
environment for my health, and I don't think I was paying much attention to it because I was in my late 20s.
Well, yeah. And I think, even 5 years ago, I don't think parasites were really discussed enough in the functional medicine realm as much as they are now.
I had even seen my mother, being holistically minded, had taken me to a naturopath and discovered this parasite when I had come back from India, but they just lay dormant even after you've
Right.
taken care of them. So when we had moved back to Afghanistan and then Pakistan, of course, I would have reoccurring episodes. My gut integrity was definitely challenged. Then with all the stress of our son,
And moving.
our dog actually ended up dying of cancer a month after we moved to Bangkok. That was very tragic and definitely had an impact on my
Yeah.
health. I would say it was probably our son and our dog that triggered my Hashimoto's. But what was happening for me was that I had so much joint pain. I couldn't exercise for about 4 months. My moods were all over the place. I was bloated. I looked 6 months pregnant when I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what was going on until I was in a pathophysiology class and started reading about the symptoms of Hashimoto's. I had this slow weight gain going on as well, very steady, slow weight gain. And I thought, oh my gosh, that sounds so much like what I've been going through. And so I went back to the naturopath that had helped my son, and we tested the antibodies, and sure enough, I had Hashimoto's.
So, okay, how old was your son at this point when you started feeling all these symptoms?
He must have been about 4 or 5.
Okay. I'm just thinking there's so many women, like even me, my youngest is 4. I'm definitely not as exhausted and tired as I was at one point because I'm more focused on my health now. But so many people would hear your symptoms too and just think like you're in the throes of motherhood. You're
Exactly.
exhausted because you have a 4-year-old, 5-year-old. It's just kind of like this is how your life is now.
Exactly. And I don't even think I realized those symptoms until his asthma had gone away because
Yeah.
I was so focused on him.
Right.
I wasn't sleeping well because, of course, when your child can have an asthma attack, you're alert with every rattle of the monitor.
Yeah.
I would just constant hyper alert for years.
Yeah.
I think he was about 4 years old when I realized.
Yeah. You went to the naturopath and found out, okay, you have Hashimoto's.
Mhm.
What did you do then?
Well, I did what I don't want everyone else to do. I joined all the Facebook groups. I tried every elimination diet possible. I didn't like the weight gain. I started doing yoga, probably daily, but power yoga, just pushing myself on no sleep still, because even though the asthma was gone, I was still in this hyper alert mode. And I was also cooking all of his food at this point because
Yeah.
it was probably 2013, 2014. There was not a lot being made that was gluten free or dairy free in Thailand at that point.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
I was making everything from scratch. I was doing all these things that were not helping. And I had fear of going out with friends. People were commenting at how annoying I was to go out with because I would be difficult when I was ordering, because I
Yeah.
had so much fear around food.
Yeah.
And so actually what happened was it took me years to really figure out what to do that would lead me in the right direction. And I discovered it completely by accident.
How fun.
When I finally gave myself a break, I went to a yoga retreat in India with my mom.
Okay.
We were going to yoga classes every day, but it was not hardcore yoga. It was restorative yoga, sound
Yeah.
baths, connection with other people. I was able to eat whatever I wanted without getting any bloating. And my thyroid seemed to be functioning better when I came back. Now, I went 3 years in a row, but it wasn't until the 3rd year that I went that it really clicked in what was actually happening, because I couldn't
Right.
figure it out. I don't know why, but I couldn't figure it out until I was
Yeah.
there right before COVID. And I went for 2 weeks. I was with a friend. A friend of mine was teaching a yoga class there, but I was really just doing this restorative practice. There were healing circles. I think because I was alone at the end of the retreat, I felt less self-conscious. So I would throw myself into a healing circle and just allow everything to just let it go.
Yeah.
When I came back, 7 days later, it was lockdown.
Perfect.
Perfect, right? Now I have the time. Now I can actually practice yoga and meditation every day. And
Yeah.
so
I'm
I
telling you.
did.
I'm telling you, there are some blessings that definitely came out of COVID and lockdown.
Definitely.
So then you were able to spend that time just restoring yourself.
Exactly. So I started focusing on myself. I wasn't running my son to school. I wasn't getting up early. I was sleeping well. I started swimming, which now I love as part of my movement during the week, like daily movement. I started using yoga more as a restorative practice
Yeah.
rather than doing hot yoga or power yoga, but more intentionally just using it to restore my body. And I
Yeah.
started practicing meditation. And all the weight that I had gained fell off. I did not change my diet at all. I actually started adding in more and more foods. And by the time we moved to Florida, where I am now, which was 3 years later, I had to come off of the thyroid medication because I didn't need it anymore.
Look at that. That is amazing. Like, just by focusing on yourself, though, and
Exactly.
it's not even the food is the primary thing,
No,
but
definitely
like
not.
just lifestyle. That's
Choosing
amazing.
yourself and listening to your body, prioritizing your own needs, and letting other people know what those needs are.
Yeah.
So,
Gosh, that's amazing. And so through all of that, that's what led you to really turn from doing the career that you were at to more of like the clinical nutritionist.
yes, it's just where my soul was.
Yeah.
I loved photography. I still love doing photography, but my nervous system was at the point where there was no way I could get a call the night before and then hop on a plane the next day and leave our son overnight. I mean, first
Yeah.
of all, my husband wasn't even around half the time, so that wasn't
Yeah.
possible. I didn't have it in me, and all my focus was on research. So it was like, why not just make a career of this? I'm obsessed with it anyway.
That's awesome. My story is similar in so many ways, but my first degree was in visual art. And so
Oh,
I just was a freelance artist. That's what I went to college for, and that's what I was doing. But in the middle of like my health journey and everything, I also realized I wanted it to stay a fun hobby. Like I didn't want to put all the pressure on myself of like you have to make art. You have to and
mhm.
depend on that as something for income. So it's awesome though because like photography, art, all of that, it's something that like you can do forever, right? Even when you retire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, I even think there is a link between what I was doing with the photography work, the documentary work I was doing, and the work I'm doing now in nutrition.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, with your clients now, I mean, you have had this awesome transformational journey and like with your son, can you give me another example of a client story that just really touched you?
Sure. I think one of my favorite stories was at the way beginning of my career in functional nutrition. I met a boy who was on the autism spectrum. His mom asked me to come to their house only because he had a fear of going outside. So she
Yeah.
couldn't get him to me. So, eager as I was, happy to go over there, I arrived thinking, oh, I hope I can really help. And he was not happy to see me, to say the least. I was sat there
Yeah.
talking to his mom while he was very angry, threw a glass off the table and broke it. And when I left, threw a chalk box at me and hit me.
Lovely.
Ouch. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So I was discouraged, but I continued to work with them. And the mom and I would speak over the phone. And she had already had him on the GAPS diet. She had tried every kind of elimination diet with him. He was dairy free, gluten free. Then she had turned to the GAPS.
Yeah.
And after going through all of his symptoms, he had rashes all over his body. He had a
Mm.
bad temper. His gut health was awful. And she had already tried him in all these different diets. So we looked at salicylates. It turned out to be exactly what was needed. And she was cooking everything from scratch herself at home. She was a stay-at-home mom at the time with 2 other children. She was very dedicated to her son
Yeah.
and his health. And at the time, he wasn't communicating with her. So she wanted to do everything.
How old was he?
He was 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when she took the salicylates out, we were hesitant at first because there's so many healthy foods with salicylates. Even like olive oil
Right.
is high in salicylates, and they correspond with high oxalates as well. So it was like, okay, we have to choose. So about 3 months later, she brought him in to see me, and we were chatting. She was very happy because he had started communicating with her. She felt like she had a brand new son.
Well, he got out of the house to go see you too.
Exactly. He had been going
So
outside. And I looked at him and I said, how do you feel now versus how you felt when we first met 3 months ago? And he said, I think probably when we met, I was like a 1 or 2 on a scale of 1 to 10. It was a 1 or 2. And now he said, I think I'm a 9. I said, oh, wow, that's fantastic. And he said, no, actually, I want to correct that. I think it's a 10 or 11.
awesome.
Yeah, that was just such a motivational story for me and just
Yeah.
help other children and moms.
Yeah. Like your 7-year-old not communicating with you or going outside. That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. And just emphasizes the importance of diet and finding the right diet for you based
Mhm.
on what kind of symptoms and everything you're experiencing.
Exactly. And I think definitely with autism, it's really not one solution. It's not one elimination diet. I had another client here in her 20s who was diagnosed later on in her life, and probably in her early 20s, only because both of the parents were autistic and hadn't realized that their child was also autistic, high functioning autism.
Right.
Later in life diagnosed, and when she came to see me, she was struggling with horrible gut symptoms, and we only removed dairy and gluten, but she was, eating a lot of dairy.
Yeah. Well, it can be in so many things too if you're not cautious.
Yes. But
Yeah.
in that situation, I think she only had to remove dairy and gluten, and she said, "I didn't even know I could feel this good. I didn't even know it was possible."
Yeah. That's
So
amazing. I know I felt the same way. Whenever I removed gluten alone, you have no idea how much that's impacting you or how much of it that you're consuming if you really think about it. That's amazing.
Exactly.
So, apart from everything that you did learn in school and other training, what is so important in your practice that you feel like is just not something that you were just taught?
I think listening to people's story, because really listening to the whole person and hearing their story gives you a lot of clues, and a lot of time it gives you all the information that you really need as a practitioner, much
Yes.
more than what they're eating, but just listen to their entire story.
Yeah, I like that. It's more of a functional approach anyway, so personalized, and
Yeah.
it's so different for everybody. I think that that's awesome. I agree.
And I don't think they teach us that the nervous system is so important in school either. I mean, we touch on it, but
Right, just the mind-body connection of all
Mhm.
of it,
Yeah.
because that alone essentially is what really helps your Hashimoto's.
Yes, and so many other people with all kinds of autoimmune conditions.
That's wild.
I hope people can piece together how these illnesses can come about from listening to stories, and then also how they can be healed. Because,
Yeah.
there's so many parts to the story.
Right. I know through your journey with autoimmune stuff, if there's other people out there struggling with autoimmune conditions that they've been diagnosed with and are taking medications for, have been for years, things like
Mm.
that, what is something that you would suggest to them if they're like maybe in their head thinking, there's no way I could ever get rid of this? I've had it for so long.
Mm. That's so common too, right?
I
Like
know. Yeah.
people who struggle with psoriasis or eczema or rheumatoid arthritis, so many different autoimmune conditions where they're led to believe that this is just something you have, this is genetic, there's nothing you can do about it. Just take this topical medication, this oral medication, like,
Yeah.
okay, good luck.
Yeah.
Whereas I think taking a more holistic approach and looking into their gut health, because the gut and the skin are so related, and the
Yeah.
gut and the nervous system are so related. So I think really if they can do a deep dive into their gut health, but also their emotional health
Hmm.
and, what they've actually gone through that has led them to where they are today, or how they picked up this autoimmune condition, because it wasn't like, they had the genetic susceptibility, but as we know, autoimmunity is a three-legged stool. You have to have the genetic susceptibility, you have to have leaky gut, and then there has to be a trigger, whether
Yep.
it's a viral trigger, like from a virus, like Epstein-Barr virus or COVID, or it could be an emotional trigger, like in my case, where my son's illness and my dog's dying of
Yeah.
cancer, that was definitely a trigger. So just
Yeah.
because you have the genetic susceptibility does not mean that your autoimmune condition is turned on for life. And even if it is turned on, you can turn it back off.
Yes. I think that that is something that people need to hear.
Yeah.
Just because I've had the conversation with many people where it's like they've heard that's the first time they've heard that. They're
Hmm.
never told that like you can get rid of this, you can suppress this, you can put this away, just oh, you've got to take this medication forever. And
Mm,
that's not that's not
not
always the
it.
answer.
No, and the
Because
antibodies, can disappear. I've seen them
yeah.
disappear in myself. I've seen them disappear in other clients. I've seen clients go off thyroid replacement because they don't need it anymore after they really start listening to themselves and healing
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
with their nervous system.
Mhm.
And I've also seen cases where, the antibodies have gone away and then they've come back because
Yeah.
they did the work and then they decided, okay, we're done with this. I don't have to worry about it anymore. It's an
Right.
ongoing journey.
Yeah, for sure. And I do appreciate how you pointed out that it's not just one thing. Like, you do have to have a holistic approach and focus on the mind body side and focusing on the gut and the nutrition. It's not always one thing, and it's not going to keep it at bay if you're only focusing on one thing.
Exactly. Like
So,
diet.
yeah, like you've got to look at the whole picture. That's awesome. Well, Catherine, is there anything else that you want to leave our listeners with today? This has been just a super inspiring episode. I hope that it's been inspiring for
Thank
everybody.
you. This was so much fun. Yeah, I think if there's one other thing I want to say, it's to listen to your body carefully every day and don't have a schedule. You don't have to do the HIIT class or swim 5 miles. Even if you were planning on it, listen to your body every day and see what you really need and what's going to benefit you.
Yeah, love it. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of my journey on What the Gut podcast. For a deeper dive into today's topics, head over to allisonandwellness.com/whatthegut or find the detailed show notes linked below. Hey, and don't miss out on future episodes. Hit that subscribe button, and if you love this one, please leave me a review. Let's keep the conversation going over on Instagram. Connect with me and stay updated and engaged with my awesome community. Plus, share these valuable insights with your tribe. They deserve to feel as amazing as you do. You can find me at Allison_and_wellness on Instagram. Your support means the world to me. I'm looking forward to our next awesome chat. But until then, stay curious, don't drink too much coffee, keep the vibrant energy flowing, and take care of your gut. Catch you real soon. Oh, and hey, If you're ready to dive deeper into personalized wellness, check out my one-on-one health coaching program at allisonandwellness.com. Let's make your journey to holistic health truly transformative. Hey there, it's Allison, and if you're anything like me, coffee is a non-negotiable part of your day. But did you know that most coffee is loaded with mold, toxins, and pesticides that could be messing up your gut and hormones? Yeah, no thanks. That's why I only drink Purity coffee. It's organic, tested for toxins, and it's packed with antioxidants that actually support your health instead of wrecking it. It's smooth, delicious, and best of all, it does not leave me feeling jittery or bloated. So if you're ready to upgrade your coffee game and support your gut at the same time, grab a bag of Purity coffee today. Your body will thank you. Oh, and because you are part of the What the Gut family, I've got a special link just for you. Just head to puritycoffee.com and use code AllisonGetsWell for 20% off your first order. Cheers to coffee that loves you back. Hey friend, let's talk about something real. Bloating, stomach pain, and fatigue. You do not have to live like this. I know because I was there too. I was frustrated, exhausted, and trying everything, but still felt miserable. And that's exactly why I created my Get Well one-on-one gut health coaching program to help women like you finally get to the root cause of your symptoms, heal your gut, and feel like yourself again. No more guessing, no more Band-Aid fixes, just real, sustainable solutions tailored to your body. So if you're ready to ditch the bloating, boost your energy, and actually enjoy food without discomfort, let's do this together. Head to AllisonGetsWell.com or reach out to me on Instagram at AllisonGetsWell to learn more and apply today. Because you deserve to feel good in your body every single day.